Hi guys, this video is about methods. In particular, I focus on variable arguments, often abbreviated VarArgs. I have a method here, it's a static method called show, and it has two parameters, one of type string named message and one of type integer named a. This simply outputs the message to the console with a semicolon after the message. Now I can call this method from the main, and I pass in result and 5. Now running this program will take result, pass it to integer, 5 to a, and then output result colon integer, as we can see here on the console. Now let's assume I need something similar in my program. So I need the same method with two integers. So I can overload this method, add a third parameter, so a second integer, and output that as well to the console. Now here in my main, I now can call result, and I output 5 and 8, for example. Now this works fine with overloading, but let's say later I noticed I need this for a third integer and fourth integer. This is really where variable arguments come into play. Instead of overloading it, I can add to the very last parameter a dot dot dot. So we can see that these two method calls still work. Now when I run this, we notice something different in the output. It no longer outputs the value of a, but instead an address. And that is because this gets treated as an array inside the method. So what I do here is I remove this, I change it to a print statement, and then I simply iterate over the values in the array. So I use a for each loop. This gives me every integer in this array. So this is kind of like writing an array, but an array wouldn't work with the method calls. So here, with the method calls, this gets converted into an array. So in the first method call, the array would hold 5. Second method call, the array would hold 5 and 8. And here I now output print value and a space. And at the end, I add the line break. Now let's run this. And here now we can get the output just like we had the overloaded method. First, it's an array of 5, so it outputs result with a colon, then iterates over the elements. It's only 5, so it outputs 5 in the space, and then it's done. The second method call here passes 5 and 8 as an array, so it outputs result as the first statement, then uses the for each loop to get 5, and it outputs 5 with a space, and then it outputs 8 with a space and a semicolon. Now the nice thing is here, whenever I need more integers that I want to output, I can just add them here as a list. And we can see my method still works fine. Now there's no maximum, there's also not really a minimum. So because it's a variable argument, I could even call it with result, just result itself. Now if I output this, we can see it doesn't output anything, right? If the array is empty, it would basically skip this for loop and just output result and a statement. So variable arguments, we can not pass anything at all or any number of values. The other thing to note is we cannot have more than one. So if I do VarArgs here, this doesn't work. Also, if I remove this one, I still get a compile error. The variable argument type string of the method must be the last parameter. So we can only use it for the very last parameter of a method. Now let's try something different. Let's say we want to call this result and we want to pass in a new integer array. Now you can see that I can also explicitly declare an array and pass it in. and running this will still output it. So by declaring it as a variable argument instead of an array, I get more options. If I had declared this as an array, I could only call it with an array. Only this would work. All the other ones would fail. By changing this to a variable arguments with 3 dots after the last parameter, I have many more options to call it, and I don't explicitly have to create an array if I want to pass in multiple integers. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.